Postdoc transformation. Postdoc transformation. Postdoc transformation. Invest in your postdoc transformation. Welcome to the seasonal show for scientists leaping into business. In every sponsored episode, we are happy to recommend employers of choice for you. Make sure to check your readiness to leap out of science with us for free, as linked in the show notes. For your career transition, we offer customized career transition e-courses and memberships also at graduate schools all over the world. Maybe yours too. And if your university isn't yet our customer, enroll in your free email course for career transition made simple, as linked in the show notes. I'm your host, Professor Dr. Eleonore Soei-Winkels, with my team who is rooting for you. And let's build your postdoc transformation with this episode. Welcome, Postdoc Transformer. This is a special treat for you. I am absolutely honored to have Christina Bösenberg with me. I found her because I was looking for an AI expert in consulting. She's responsible at Boston Consulting for AI transformation, strategy, people, diversity, and also as a huge advocate for female leadership. She actually studied organizational psychology in Hanover, and then she also did her Harvard Advanced Program for Leaders, and she gained experience also in consulting, EY, and also at corporates like Siemens and Kienbaum. And Kienbaum is the top address also for students like mine, because they study business psychology. I want to share her view also on the topics that are dear to the heart of my students. During the Corona years, she also created her own podcast, which is Transformation Universe. So transformation, I love the term transformation. As you can see also here on the picture, she's also an advocate for the prefrontal cortex, and that should also ring a bell for my own students. So today she's at Boston Consulting. She'll be talking about the Bright House. She's a managing director, and she's overlooking a wide range of business functions. For example, strategy, business innovation, digital transformation, large-scale restructuring, digital transformations, finance, sales, marketing, operations, governance, and of course, HR and people, and always with a human-centric touch. And she's not doing that in a void. No, she is also a business influencer and a sought-after speaker and writer also. And you can find her in the Handelsblatt and also Focus. Without further ado, Christina, this is your stage.
Thank you so much for the intro. Yeah, happy to be here. In our pre-conversation, we also found some interlinkages and some interesting topics that we both share, so I'm happy to talk.
Oh, thank you. So can you explain a little bit more about your role at Bright House Boston Consulting? What is Bright House doing within the BCG world?
Good question. Bright House is indeed a 100% subsidiary of Boston Consulting, acquired 15 years ago. And it specializes in people engagement, organizational activation, and purpose. And of course, the whole implementation work stream of all three pillars. So that means putting people at the heart of every transformation and also every restructuring, cost transformation, and in AI or digital transformations where you predominantly thought or even think today that is more technical. We need to do the processes and structures here. Yes, true. And we need to include the people.
And that really resonates a lot.
That's really basically what Bright House is doing in short, in a nutshell.
It's great because actually, to be honest, most of my listeners do not know what consulting is. And I already had an episode on consulting as such. That was more tech consulting. I had a PhD in neuroscience, and then I ventured out into consulting. And I already shared my view that this is a great learning opportunity for people with a doctor title. Do you think that this is just an anecdote? Is it helpful, or is it more a hindrance in consulting?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think a doctoral title is a hindrance, and neither is it an advantage. It's always depending on your ability to focus on the right things. And what are these right things? They're definitely very client-centric and market-centric. And it's more than a doctor title. It's the ability to really get a sense for everybody you're working with. And then come up with data expertise and deep knowledge about a subject matter. That's for sure very important. And as you might all know, BCG is working with a lot of scientific institutions, and we have the wonderful BCG Henderson Institute, who's doing a lot of research, especially in neuroscience, especially also in behavioral sciences and psychology. And from my personal perspective, this is hugely important. And my experience is it also convinces our customers very often. So it's not about having a gut feeling and then developing a strategy, but having data and then developing a strategy based on data. And data can also be psychological data, data around behavioral sciences, or data around how the brain is functioning. To be honest, even if we talk about deep tech transformations, and I did that at EY, for example, and for many years before that at other consultancies, also at Siemens in R&D, basic operational business. But in every transformation, no matter how technical they were, in the end, if there was any failures, always because of the people, leadership behaviors and employee behaviors. If there is any failure, it's never due to technical issues or budget. Of course, that's happening, but they can be overcome. If you have resistance or bad leadership behavior, it's not so easy.
Absolutely agreed. Just to briefly mention, I also talk about intercultural competencies for change management, big transformation. I always tell my students, you need to have a due diligence that also comprises the human part, not just the tech, not just the business assets, not just the promising business models and the supply chain that can be married and everything is great. But if the people do not work within it, they work against the new system, then everything will fail. And once you have determined your readiness to leap and want to transition into business or industries, then you can enroll in your free email course with 10 actionable, bingeable email lessons until you start your job in business. You'll get 10 emails like this. Number 1, how to leap out of science. Number 2, how to build your sustainable LinkedIn profile. Number 3, how to read social media and network. Number 4, how to research your favorite jobs and employers. Number 5, how to do informational interviews to get insights. Number 6, how to create your customized applications with ChatGPT. Number 7, how to prepare your thesis from a business point of view. Number 8, how to apply to your favorite employers. Number 9, how to choose the right job offer. Number 10, how to prepare for your new job.
That's for sure,
really
and we also have data for that a lot. Everybody knows the McKinsey data. 70% of all digital tech transformations fail, and BCG has the same data. I mean, we have, of course, researched that as well. 71% of all digital and tech transformations fail due to people behaviors. That's what you're saying.
Agreed. And you mentioned also Boston Consulting, Henderson, and all the other things that we want to make sure that we will link that in the show notes. Yeah. So if you are interested, especially my own students, because that really should be a bright future for you so that you can marry the people and the tech side. So
yes, and exactly what I've been doing for 10 years. For me, it's always a triangle and a three-dimensional approach. And I'm fully with you. It's the three-dimensional approach is also something that's close to the heart of Bright House and also BCG, which includes, of course, tech and IT, or at the moment AI as an enabler, super important as an enabler. Then second dimension, processes and structures. That can be an organizational design, org architecture, or whatever you name it, supply chain setup. And then the third dimension is the people and cultural dimension, and that includes behavior.
Okay, that is a reel in itself, and I will echo this in all my lectures, really.
Good.
Okay, so now the next question really is for my scientists who are leaping into business. You were talking a lot of buzzwords, AI, and maybe also machine learning and something like that. So are there any skills that they should already prepare upskilling while they are at uni, while they are still at the bench? You were talking about Siemens and R&D.
Yeah,
so
you mean
that
the postdocs,
for scientists who people with a PhD, or even postdocs who maybe want to leap into business, do you think that there is something that they can upskill from a today's point of view?
Yes, two things come to mind immediately. The first is science is great, I love it. And you need to develop use cases out of science. So if we talk about AI, it's cool to have a nice tech or an algorithm that works well and implement the algorithm into a running system and enhance productivity or gain 4 hours a week like we do at BCG at the moment. That's all good, but you need to develop use cases that you can, in terms of consulting, sell to a client or offer a client or make the world a better place with, whatever you are. I would definitely always have an eye on, yes, we have data, yes, we have scientific knowledge, and what does the world need? What do the organizations need? What's the benefit for society? What are the use cases, the practical, tangible use cases of those scientific data or knowledge that we are having? First thing. Second thing, to be honest, is your own leadership behavior or your own behavior. I know universities and I get a lot of people from university directly or even at later stage. And that's a completely different ecosystem. And don't get me wrong, there is zero judgment here. It's just different. So if you're entering the corporate world, the ecosystem, meaning the culture, is totally different to your well-known university ecosystems. I think it's good to be prepared for behavioral changes in terms of power and politics. How am I dealing with conflict? Conflicts are dealt differently from my experience in the industry than in the scientific environment. How am I leading a team? How am I as a leader? What do I want to convey? What's the culture I want to build up? Because it's not so easy to build up a cool culture. It's easy on paper, but it's not easy in reality because you're dealing with 20 plus people who are totally different than probably you are or have different assumptions of reality. So that's the second piece. First piece, knowledge and science, wonderful, but create tangible use cases. So what's the benefit for a potential customer or a potential system? And then the second is work on your own leadership behaviors and on your own inner pictures of how you want to be perceived as a team member, a leader, or whatever.
Wonderful. Another reel in itself. Thank you. The needed adjustments in the professional identity is really something that you have to anticipate when you're leaping from the bench to industry into a business context where it's fast-paced, where it really matters that you are there on point and not just reiterating everything.
Exactly. Plus, being judged all the time. You have to deliver. It's a high performance focus. You really have to deliver not once a year or like 3 times a year or whatever, but it's like spot on. You are talking to CEOs or to boards, spot on delivery. There is a question that you are not expecting, has nothing to do with the issue you're talking about, completely different angle. You need to answer that. Without data, you have to navigate, and in German we say fly on site. And this is probably one of the big differences to science business. Always, you don't have enough data, but you get a lot of questions or challenges where you don't have enough data, where you only have 70 or 60% of the data you would love to have. It happens to me every day, but you need to answer it still.
I'm opening brackets here for my students. That is really the reason why I'm saying you have to be able to make informed assumptions. You can't just think of theory if you don't know all the data, which will be always the case. You have to make a reasonable judgment on what could be happening. And then from there on, have a scenario A, B, or C based on what is most realistic or not. So this is especially for my students. Hopefully you have listened now and if not, rewind. Thank you, Christina. From episode 1 and counting, I have proudly hosted all our postdoc transformation show episodes on Podbean. As a former IT strategy consultant, I have high requirements on my tech stack, and Podbean is my perfect fit for a podcast host. If you want to create your own individual podcast or one for, internal upskilling and communications within a company, DM or email me Podbean so I can share my experience and consult you. You can also use my affiliate links for perks launching your own podcast with Podbean. Are you wondering how I do my videos and my podcast in my spare time? Well, Descript is the video and audio editor that I use, and I wish I had since day one of my postdoc transformation show. Descript's AI-powered features make it really easy for me to create branded, long-form and short-form content for my TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, X, Threads, YouTube, LinkedIn game, and whatever it is. Since my first remote interview with international guests from all over the place, I fell in love with their newly acquired Squadcast feature. So all English interviews are transcribed with high accuracy despite the different accents of my guests, mine including. And best of all, I am editing words and not sound waves. They are constantly building new AI-powered features which have helped me to efficiently and effectively promote my business, postdoc transformation, and that's so invaluable as a working mom and active professor. So check it out with my affiliate link in the show notes for launching your own podcast, video show, or even B2B for your internal communication. Okay, now over to my next question. I think that BCG is always at the forefront of being at the what is new, what is the future of work. And you are also a future of work expert from organizational psychology point of view. What are the biggest opportunities for growth in your industry?
That's a great question. Let's talk about AI first. We have been implementing AI, large language models, since minute one. Of course, always very curious on what's new on the market. We have to be trend scouts because our clients want us to be trend scouts. They want to know how the future will develop, how markets are developing, how products are developing. So we implemented AI, large language models, generative AI at very early stage, some of them even before they went to the broader market. What I find as one trend in the context of future of work is profitability in terms of efficiency. So we have research here in place where we can save 4 hours a week only by using large language models, be it Gen AI or be it Gemini or others. It's an average of 4 hours a week. So of course, with your capabilities and competences, the efficiency is increasing and productivity is increasing. It will be very interesting to observe this process also from a psychological point of view, because there are so many psychological or organizational psychological aspects that come with that. Of course, everybody says, yes, efficiency is great, yes. But what about if you have constantly experienced on a daily basis that the AI is so much smarter than you are, which we are having all day? So the answers are very often better. They're of course faster, more complex, more data in very short time. And this is an interesting psychological challenge for many leaders, especially those who've been in place for 10, 20 years and consider themselves being a top expert in XYZ, which they are, which they totally are. But then they have to work with a great AI on a daily basis. I'm working with a Gen AI, with several Gen AI models and others, I think 30 times a day or something. For me, it's not a big thing because I never perceived myself as a mega top super smart expert in whatever, because my background is not in science. Of course, I have several masters, but this is not the point. The point is, but for those who are coming from a scientific background, this will be probably very interesting, but because the whole industry in professional services is extensively working with AI. So you will have this experience. So then there's this organizational psychological question. Let's make a case. Of course, I sanitize it, but I had a client request a year ago to develop a global, pretty complex organizational architecture with a agile operating system, so an agile transformation, but also a org design that was pretty revolutionary for that company. So normally I would have set 10, 12 junior consultants or consultants on it, and they would have needed probably 8 days to really come up with a model with 20, 25 roles and responsibilities, the interfaces and the committees where they meet and where they don't meet, and define the interfaces, everything. The AI did that in 2 minutes, and it was of great quality. Of course, there has to be a senior expert who's reviewing it. Of course, no doubt, of course. And of course, you're not selling an AI product to a client, never. But I mean, hey, This saves you so much time, also resources. So next question, next to the personal feeling of, oh my God, this is so much smarter and faster than I am, is what are we doing with the free resources now? So what are we doing with the 4 hours or 8 consultants or whatever? So this is another challenge, not only in my company, but also in the whole industry that we are facing in terms of future of work and future settings. So you asked about the future. To summarize these AI aspects, we will probably face way more efficiency and way more productivity gains through AI, but there are also a lot of challenges for the cultural and people aspects that come with the AI.
Like you say, I also have people in my team who do the podcasts, editing, everything. So I'm interviewing people like you, and someone else is taking over the editing. But I can see AI features within my editing software that is doing that in minutes. And I don't even have to oversee this a lot because it really is great.
Good.
It's good enough, and I
Absolutely.
already trained it. And I'm questioning myself, do I want to take another intern?
Yeah.
Because that takes a longer time.
Yeah, exactly.
to
That's
overlook
exactly
and to
what I
develop.
said. Absolutely.
And then the question is really, when we have this Fachkräftemangel, the people that are missing on the market who have these expertise, how should they get the expertise when they are in a competition with AI? And no one maybe wants to give them the work so that they can train themselves, because I don't have time to do that anymore.
No. Same. Yeah, that's exactly the point I wanted to make. Same here. And
Okay,
this is one of the challenges that I see for the future of work in terms of organizational psychology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what do we do with the many people who are not up to the game of using AI in a good way, not just consuming AI, but also writing the right prompts and thinking about the opportunities that you can have with AI, and by marrying the different AIs. It's not the AI, it's AI for different specific purposes.
And the second,
you have to...
Exactly. Yeah. You are mentioning the second big trend I wanted to make for the future of work, the bot economy, because as you were describing a minute ago, I think for end of 2024, 2025, I'm assuming that we will have a lot of highly intelligent bots being let's say a box where you have 20 different AIs running and you are only talking to the interface, and the interface or the AI the algorithm is deciding which AI he's or she or it is referring to when it is operating. That's a second big tech trend that I'm seeing. The bot, not necessarily bot economy, but that we will have a lot of bots and we will have no clue which AI product is running or which model is running below the interfaces that we are talking to or having a conversation with.
Yeah, and then from a technical point of view, it really is interesting that you have to understand the interface and what data goes from there to there, and to make it seamless and everything. So the migration from data here to here, and the insights that we need to derive based on the unstructured, structured data, that really is where I want my students to have a look at, because tech is blind. Tech is agnostic if it's not led by the right questions, and the right questions need to be made by people.
Totally. Yes. 100%.
Okay, and now it's time to thank Company ABC, who sponsors this episode of the Postdoc Transformation Show. I would now be reading the company's answers to one of 6 bold questions so that you can choose to apply. For example, number 1. Describe your most valuable experts versus leaders in your company. Have they typically earned a doctor title? Number 2. For which of your company roles or units do you encourage somebody with a doctor title to apply? Number 3. How would you describe your organizational culture in which your most valuable experts and leaders thrive in? To nominate an employer of choice so that we can ask our informative bold questions, let us know via the click on the link. If you are a company representative, like in recruiting and employer branding, and now you want your company to be highlighted as an employer of choice for our audience, you can become a sponsor of a dedicated Postdoc Transformation Show episode. Just click on the link in the show notes. And now, back to the Postdoc Transformation episode.
And this is also the role I see getting more and more important in the future. People need to really catch up not only with tech, but also with their own intelligence to be an expert on prompting and on steering the whole process and being the orchestrator of it.
If you are my student, then please know that at BCG, I have a couple of students. You can contact my students at BCG so that you can understand whether BCG is an employer for you. Because I really do think that you need to be at the forefront of the people organizational change, but also that is in a place where it's open to utilize tech. Not in every company you will find that openness to have, or three. So process in the middle and then the tech and the people side. So now over to you again. So misconceptions. Do you think that new career joiners or new company joiners who are new to consulting because they haven't had any industry experience, but also maybe lateral hires, do you think that there are some misconceptions about consulting that you want to demystify?
That's a difficult question. At the same time, yes, there are, and people are different. The important note here is that many people have friends or an ecosystem or a network, and they know that it's not a 9-to-5 job, or that the speed is high, the pressure is sometimes high. The misconception is probably that everybody is a high flyer. Of course, there is a very intense interview process and very intense period of testing, being tested, if you are able to create good use cases or to approach a process systematically and so on and so forth. That's given. At the same time, we are all human. There is a lot of power play and politics and also emotions in place. It's pretty competitive internally. Yes, there is a great teaming as well at the same time, and you do have teams and you do have common challenges and the joy that it brings if you are conquering a big challenge and you are on the front line of a big client project, that's for sure, and if you win it. But it's super competitive as well. And it's super performance oriented. What I find, even in highly smart people, and I get a lot of them, be prepared or ask yourself if you really want to work in a performance oriented competitive setting. Not everybody is emotionally able to do that.
Okay, that's a great heads up. And I really do feel that I should invite you back to another episode that is really focused on organizational psychology and about performance-based measuring everything, because that will really shed more light into what I'm also teaching. I have my Accenture experience, but I'm very curious to understand what is the contemporary approach to that, because we have other tools, obviously, and I left Accenture years ago. That was not AI, and you probably have a better way of looking at it, and so I will probably invite you again. You are a woman and a managing director, and my students, as you probably know, most of them are female. So I want them to also have relatable role models, and you are so inspiring. So if possible, would you be able to also share your own career aspirations? I mean, from our pre-discussion, I understand that you are also interested in neuroscience, but maybe there's something else where you think that you will have an impact in the world.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for the great question. I have two main missions. I'm really, really committed to female empowerment and female leadership. So I'm trying every day to role model female leadership and to really focus on gender equality and bringing up high-performing females, but also in terms of neurodiversity. I recently published an article on neurodiversity because we have a very interesting new Harvard study. You might be aware of the Harvard study that says basically 20% of all people on the planet in every country, up to 20% are somehow neurodiverse, whatever that is. ADHD, dyslexia, autism spectrum, 20% is a lot. So for me, it's more than, isn't it normal? Or do we need to talk about neurodiversity? So one of my missions is to really go to the workplace every day and not only promote, but to make sure that we have an environment where all kinds of diversity can flourish and can be successful. That's my mission, and that's also looking into the future, something I'd love to share more on stages or in advisory boards. I'm convinced that we need a way closer interlinkage of politics, society, and economy. So for me, the huge gap and siloism between the economy, the industry, and our political system and our societies, it's dramatic. And we could benefit so much from a much closer interlinkage. So I would love to be part of some committees in the political world, or in Verbänden, we would say in German, in the big German industry Verbände, where I could contribute as a female leader, 25 years on my back in the industry, and transformations, digital transformations from minute one to 1999 started at my career at Siemens. So that would be part of a mission that I'm having. Female leadership, neurodiversity in the workplace as a new normal. And second, the interlinkage economy or industry and our political system.
And I'm so glad that I have asked this, because I really do think that a lot of my listeners are at least a lot of my guests are actually headhunters, CTO headhunters, something like that. And I'm very sure that I can share your episode with the right people. Remember, you are a postdoc transformer. You are highly intelligent, well-educated, a bachelor, master, and maybe you have already your doctor under your belt, or you are a postdoc. You are internationally experienced, fluent in English, a leader and expert in your prior research field. You're resilient, brilliant in adaptation and problem solving. You are eager to bring in the transferable and monetizable skills needed in many companies to embrace the future and to become or remain an innovator in their markets. Hey, postdoc transformer, are you curious to ask professors, principal investigators, visiting scientists, postdocs, PhD students, and candidates some in-depth life and career guiding questions, but it feels cringe, so you end up not asking? Buy our postdoc transformation card game to have more fun and valuable insights in your journal club, lab, and mentoring meetings, lab rotations, during conferences, panels, and breaks at the Mensa. You'll get 10 intriguing mentoring questions per career level. So 10 for PhD students, 10 for postdocs, 10 for professors, 10 for parental scientists, underprivileged and underrepresented and underserved scientists. Check them out with our discount coupon on the Postdoc Transformation shop, linked on postdoctransformation.com. Now, obviously, this is the Postdoc Transformation show, and the first step of someone who is leaping into business maybe is not looking for advisory roles, but instead is more like finding the right industry, finding the right company, and the role that suits best the current transferable skills that they can offer. Okay, so that is one step, but I always think that finding the right company, industry, and so on, you have to also look at the C-suite levels. Going back, but also looking forward, can you share, looking at the C-suite levels in your industry, what are diverse and inclusive markets? Because all of them during the June month say, yes, we are LGBTIQ, pride is everything, and then obviously in August and September it goes down, and for Mother's Day it's always the same for women, etc. So it's
International
it's
Women's Day.
So it's like, wow. Yeah. But what are the true markers where you say that if you're not yet there, what are the indicators that one should look at?
Yeah, thank you for that great question. You're totally right. Also, in terms of gender diversity or dimensions of diversity, look at the tangible diversity in the boards, but don't stop there. Every big consultancy in our industry, be it the smaller, mid-sized or large ones, the big four, and also the big strategy houses, they have industry leaders, meaning that there's always a leader for the global or European industry sector, like transport, logistics, tech and telcos, like automotive, pharma, chemistry, so on. So there's always a leader of those industry sectors. It's interesting to look at the boards, but with the quota and with a huge wave of discussions and public awareness, Many have promoted one or even two women into boards. If you look at the industry sector ahead, I know a lot of large and mid-sized consultancy where those are purely male. And you find them on the internet. So if it's important for you to find a company that is pretty gender diverse, you should look at those as well. So industry sector leads, global, European, whatever is interesting to you. And then also, of course, every committee that you can find online. Advisory boards are better because we have a longer tradition with a quota here, at least in Europe. That's something that I can definitely suggest, and I would highly recommend to do that. And then also you talked about finding the right industry sector for you. I was listening closely when you talked about that. And my secret to this is, if you are brand new and if you're starting from scratch as a postdoc, I would recommend to really scan the markets, get your data in place, and then also get your gut feeling what you are personally really interested in and fascinated with. For me, this has always been tech. For others, it's consumer products and retail. For others, it's innovation in pharma. But really, please take a look at your gut feeling and in terms of passion, in terms of what am I really interested in. And I even transferred that to my financial planning and my financial knowledge. I'm investing in companies that I'm totally enthusiastic about, that have great leaders. For me, also here, it's tech, AI, innovation. But for others, it's different. I have a lot of friends who are investing in consumer products, pharma, whatever. I don't. No judgment, but this is definitely a magic key, because you need to have a emotional involvement in what you're doing. If you don't have that, whoa, life is long. Your career will be long.
Thank you so much, Christina, for this answer, because it really dovetails nicely with many episodes when you say that if you're not emotionally bound to what you are doing at work, and I read your LinkedIn post about the 4-hour work and that you shouldn't drag your work life to have free time, which you maybe try to enjoy.
Compensate.
Right. There's a spillover effect and everything is bad and you need the time off to exhale. But instead, find meaningful work for yourself where you have the interest and the motivation, and that is fulfilling as such, so that it becomes more of an intrinsic motivation to work at that kind of workplace and also with the right people.
Yes.
Right. So I always love working in tech, the same, because tech is always fascinating. I love working with consultants because they are fast-paced, they're open-minded, they embrace the change. It's not always like, oh my God, we've always been doing this, why should we change? And I don't want to drag people around. I don't want to push people around. I just want to run, and I want to have people that are running with me. So you have to understand that, and then you can find the right spot for you. I built my postdoc transformation as a digital business, and I chose ActiveCampaign to be the centerpiece of all my services like email course, podcast, newsletter, show notes, website, sales page, merch shop, forms, whatever it is, as needed. As a former IT strategy consultant, I have high requirements on my tech stack, and ActiveCampaign is a must-have recommendation. I use it daily. If you want to create your own digital business with various lead magnets and funnel options, DM or email me ActiveCampaign so I can share my experience and consult you. You can also use my affiliate links for perks launching your own digital business.
Exactly, and people are different. And it's totally okay to go into a mid-sized company, German Mittelstand, for example, and have a different pace. That's fully okay. Cool, do that. It's just you need to find your sweet spot.
Absolutely. The intensity of a role for that career stage, that really is different. And sometimes when you're young or when you're unbound, you don't have any family or you don't have someone else to care, you can do this, and you should do this while you are young, because later you will have so many other obstacles and also responsibilities. So talking to the scientists who are leaping into business and also my graduates of bachelor and master students, so what do you think are typical roles for someone who is new to the business where that person can learn as much as possible in the quickest time possible.
I would definitely advocate for not going into another research function or role. We have knowledge teams who are researching for us all day. I would suggest not to join those. Of course, they are wonderful and great, and we need people there. But the point I want to make is take 2 to 3 years of your lifetime and invest them into becoming a consultant. The learning curve is steep. It's amazing. It's fascinating. You are working with the smartest people that you have in your generation. You learn from A to Z how to structure a project, how to systematically approach a very complex situation. You learn a lot about special industries that you are choosing, obviously. You can also learn a lot about people behavioral science. I would advocate for a 2 to 3 year period at least in consulting as a consultant. And normally the big players and everybody I know actually have great onboarding processes. Of course, I'm pretty sure that some people might refrain and be shy and say, well, I've no basic experience in the sector. Yes, and there are a lot of great onboarding programs. So you will learn how to deal with all of that.
Have you found this episode so far helpful for yourself? Well, maybe you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or wherever you get our show. And also share this episode with your PhD bestie because that would encourage us to help the underprivileged, underrepresented, and underserved early career scientists leaping into business. This would also ensure that you don't miss a future episode. Also, our subscription and listening numbers are key for finding the right sponsors for our show so that we can help you for free. And now, back to the show. Absolutely. And I just want to echo the 2 to 3 years. Okay, so 2 to 3 years, because that really teaches you the business life cycle and to understand the name of the game and also the unwritten rules of the name of the game. Things change, but you will see patterns only when you have enough data. And half a year, 1 year is not enough.
Not enough.
It could be tough luck, it could be anything. It could also be luck. But the thing is, after 2 or 3 years, you will see a pattern, and then you can decide whether you want to do further of that or refrain from that. But essentially, especially when you're moving as a lateral hire, so you are not the youngest anymore. My bachelor students are 23 or whatever. So the masters are a little bit older. But as a PhD, as a postdoc, you have more years under your belt. What you don't want to do is to switch to industry and stick around for just a year and then try to find a new job. That will be very difficult for you. And every industry, not just consulting. So this advice is really important for everyone who is starting a new job. What I often see is that people stick around for a year and then say, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And it's like, on what kind of data do you base your decision? You have to have persistence. We have an employment problem at the moment because people also don't have the attitude. But if you understand, and that goes back to what you just said, if you are emotionally interested, if you are invested because your interest is at the workplace fulfilled, then that will give you the energy to stick around and to do whatever it takes to be successful despite maybe the learning curve was too hard and you have to just put in some more work.
Yes, and of course
you have to have the energy.
You have bad bosses, you do have bad behaviors all over sure, of course. And not because people are intrinsically bad or under pressure. Everybody sometimes is not polite, but can be also like, can we get this done, please? And I found that people, not postdocs or from university, but the generation is not always used to a bit more pressure, clarity in terms of this wasn't enough, we need to get this done. I tell you how, but straighten up.
Yeah, and you must go, and I cannot carry you.
Yeah, sort of. And some people love that. There are a lot of people who understand the challenge as a great opportunity for personal development and professional development. This is the attitude that you probably are pointing to.
Absolutely. And as you were also leaning into, that's the way to build self-efficacy. right? To master experience, you have to master obstacles, and that means you have to put in the work.
Yeah.
I have gained so much from our conversation, Christina. Is there anything else that you want to share with us before signing off?
Yes, one thing I always like to share as a female leader in an industry that is male dominated. I also have 2 kids, by the way, 2 teenagers at the moment. And my advice for all females, but also for males at that point in time, is take things a bit lighthearted. We had a pretty intense conversation and we talked about a lot of challenges, performance pressure, and la la la. All true. And at the same time, easy does it. Easy does it. If you perceive everything as a problem, it will be a problem. And if you perceive things like, yeah, I can do this and I will find a way. And of course, I have 2 children, but yes, I can become an MD, no doubt. Take it a bit more lighthearted. That's it, basically. Take it more lighthearted. Easy does it.
Okay. Drop mic. Do you want a transcript of our episode? And our episode sponsors answers to all 6 bold questions so that you can choose to apply. Do you want to nominate your potential employer of choice so that we can ask them our bold questions? For all of that, click on our links in our show notes and on our website, www.postdoctransformation.com. Remember to check your readiness to leap out of science and to enroll in our free email course, Career Transition Made Simple. Thanks for your attention. I'm Professor Dr. Eleonore Soei-Winkels, the host of your seasonal postdoc transformation show. Hey, you're still here? And you are a future HR or talent management leader? Well, I want to talk to you about a powerful tool that can transform the way organizations communicate internally. How about creating a podcast like this one? In today's fast-paced business world, effective communication is the cornerstone of success. So how can you engage your employees, convey your company's culture, and share knowledge in a dynamic, authentic, and accessible way? Well, to me, the answer lies in podcasting, obviously. So picture this, a podcast tailor-made for your organization where you and your real employees and leaders share success stories and updates in a conversational, engaging format. It's like having your own radio show, but with a corporate twist. Absolutely branded. Now, why should you consider this as a future HR and talent management professional? Well, podcasts are accessible. So your employees can tune in during their daily commute, while multitasking, off-screen, or walking, and it's flexible and it can be easily repurposed in different formats and languages. You know what I'm talking about, right? So it actually humanizes your organization, and podcasts allow you to bring a company's culture to life. You can interview leaders, team members, and highlight what makes your workplace unique and connect with those team members who are far away or on parental leave when they are most receptive for your internal communication. And in the era of AI-generated communications, a podcast with your business leaders in real life is a real human way to reach your employees. You can inform your people every day, everywhere, on demand, and not just during the typical onboarding and promotion seasons. Lastly, it's a platform for continuous learning. Whether it's training materials, leadership insights, or industry trends, podcasts keep your team informed and inspired. So, as you prepare to step into the world of HR, talent management, and leadership, consider the impact you can make by introducing a corporate podcast. It's a game changer for internal communications and aligns perfectly with a modern work environment. So, are you ready to inform with a human touch? Create a podcast with me. I'm Eleonore Soei-Winkels, the host of the Postdoc Transformation Show. Do you need inspiration? Well, you can get a list of free 30 sample episode titles to be customized for your company. Just enter your email address on our company podcast form on postdoctransformation.com. Postdoc Transformation.